Released in December of 2017, after virtually no build-up, Pizzeria Simulator aimed to act as a sort of bookend to the ongoing lore and attempted to round up the hanging plot threads we have seen hanging on since the start of the series. The game oddly begins as an 8-bit pizza maker simulator, which is eventually overrun by a shadowy bear character. We are then treated to a franchisee advert for Freddy Fazbear's, which includes a disclaimer about liability, reveals cutting corners is considered good business, to avoid getting sued, note daily lawsuits, and also warns the risk comes of something hiding inside objects that are purchased by your pizzeria. It is even noted that something may have been trying to get in for months now, but we cannot confirm, which is very odd for them to include and also super creepy. One thing also of note is the fact that the same voiceover unit has returned to aid the player that was present in Sister Location through the hand unit. And so it's possible that the software of the hand unit is still being used by the company. We are also introduced to Helpy, a miniature version of Funtime Freddy who acts as a sort of avatar for the player when it comes to playtesting and other scenarios involving the pizzeria. We start off with only access to attractions from a dumpster diver weekly, showing just how disgustingly low value the company is willing to stoop to. Amongst these basic items, we have a barrel of balloons, a ball pit, which is notably a very high liability risk as it can bring animatronics into the facility with it, as well as the trash in the gang animatronics with quotation marks, as these are clearly not and just trash that is being posed to look like an attraction. Other objects that appear to have risk associated with them are a ball pit tower and a ladder tower, which again is related to the ball pit in some way. The riding rockets are considered risky, which may be due to the fact that they are a dangerous toy to play on. We also have the Rockstar animatronics, and for some reason Nedbear is listed as being risky, but I don't actually see what any lore relevance there is to do with that. The deluxe ball pit, again a ball pit, is seen as a major risk, as is the gravity vortex machine, which speaks for itself really. Music Man is considered a risk, which is never given any real reason to elaborate on, as he doesn't actually attack you in-game, so I'm not sure what the risk associated with him is. And another object which is considered risky is Lefty. However, it is very clear that Lefty is in some way wanted to be within this facility, as if he doesn't manage to sneak in, you can purchase him for only $5, or you can collect him from the scrapping salvage section. So it is very clear to anyone observing that Lefty being a part of this facility is in some way meant to happen. There are certain arcade cabinets which can be collected for your pizzeria, which actually contain lore for the story. Fruity Maze shows us a blonde girl who appears to be playing the game, and as the game progresses, we see the appearance of dead dogs and yellow rabbits that watch. Springtrap even appears briefly in the screen as a reflection. After a while, a car horn sound will be heard, and the girl appears to be crying. However, we soon see that there is dialogue, and Springtrap mentions to the girl, he is not really dead, he is over here, follow me. And so we are getting to view one of his abductions of the children, and we see that he used a dead dog as a method to lure one of the children away. Midnight Motorist, also named later that night in the source code, shows us a car speeding home on the highway, presumably for an alibi following a murder, and the car ends up at a house secreted within the forest. If you go off-road at a certain point, you will find a burial mound, which I can only extrapolate to be in relation to the Twisted Ones and therefore it shows us that the Twisted Ones were around at the time of this incident. There's also a Juniors which can be seen, and if approached, the player's Orange Man character will be turned away, saying, "You know you can't be here." The reasoning for this is never really given. If you approach the house, we will find a figure sitting watching TV who says, "Leave him alone tonight, he's had a rough day." The player's character, however, will attempt to open the door and gets mad at whoever has locked it, telling them that they were told not to close the door. "This is my house and he cannot ignore me like that." Eventually you will have to go around the back of the house, where you will find a broken window, some footprints leading from the window, and what appears to be the footprints of an animatronic. The Orange Man will comment he ran off to that place again. He will be sorry when he gets back. Now, interestingly, this is very hard to place within the lore even nowadays, and so I'm going to leave this till the end to try and make sense of it. During playtesting of the Fruit Punch Clown, we discover that on occasion he can actually be heard to say, "If you tell anyone about this, I will cut your throat." The low relevance of this has been overlooked considering it's a very rare Easter egg, but if I'm correct, it may be in relation to the FNAF 2 location's events, and it is in reference to the killer telling the guard who discovered the event not to say anything. This would, however, lead to the guard himself being implicated. The Egg Baby can be bought, which reveals to us blueprints, which shows that Molten Freddy contains the remains of Funtime Freddy, Foxy, and Ballora, and appears to have a concentration of something called remnant within his structure. Uncovering these blueprints will reveal the insanity ending, and also reveals to us that Lefty was created by Fazbear's Entertainment, and there's also a remote activated simulated C, which can be inferred to be child, which would explain what we use in FNAF 3 to lure and trap Springtrap. And also we learn about the Scoop, or the Scooper, as we see in Sister Location. This, according to the blueprints, which was created by Afton Robotics, not Fazbear's, is called the Scalable Creation of Ulterior Presence and has a remnant injector. So Afton Robotics has designed this device for some sort of experimentation with this remnant substance. This ending also reveals to us Henry, who, despite being dead by this point according to the novels, still technically can exist, as many other characters have persisted as spirits or data within machines. So we learn more of what this actual installment is about. This is the tale of Henry and William. Henry versus Afton and their two daughters, which they both lost. As we discussed in the FNAF video, Henry may be trapped within the data systems and can only briefly appear in the actual reality of the Freddy's world to interact with such things, and so is confined to the electronic systems. He has set up his plan to defeat Afton by setting up this pizzeria location and planning to burn it down in order to take out all the haunted animatronics. To do so, he has the guard collect the animatronics that appear in the back alley as salvage, which he has lured there, as we can tell from the voice clips after we collect them, that Baby and Springtrap were lured there by a calling, which Afton declares was a lie. The second he heard it, he knew, but was intrigued by it. The guard then uses audio prompts to discover sounds which will in some way trigger an active response from the animatronics, and then they are released into a labyrinth of passageways built within this pizzeria in order to trap them. Now, the game appears to have around 7 endings possible for the player. The first one is if you don't collect any salvage and you are fired for not filling out your obligations according to paragraph 4. The second is mediocre, where you don't buy anything for your pizzeria and so you're also again let go. The third is the lawsuit ending, which interestingly gives us the fact that within the games, the Freddy's facilities do appear to be in Utah, just like they are in the novels. Ending number 4 is bankruptcy, which occurs when you run out of money and just ends the game abruptly. Ending 5 is the insanity ending for when you find blueprints and Henry's hidden speech. Ending 6 is the lore keeper ending, and you get this after collecting all the lore nuggets throughout the game, and it gives you the 6 graves ending, which I believe to be the 6 graves of the 6 victims that we know of William Afton, which leaves us with ending 7, the true ending, the fire ending. It is revealed in Henry's ending speech that he lost his daughter to Afton, and the event of this appears to be the one that we see in the Security Puppet game, the same events that are depicted in the Save Him minigame, which would imply that, as at this point in the franchise, it was noted that Scott created one major lore retcon. I can assume that this is the retcon in question. The he is now a she. This also somewhat spoils our reveal in the next novel of the mysteries surrounding Charlie. Charlie is the puppet. Now, the actual existence of the puppet itself seems interesting, as the security feature of it appears to have been something put in place by Henry following something having happened, as we see in the alleyway later in the minigame that there are what appear to be wanted posters of an individual, and so it can be inferred that there was some form of incident that occurred prior to this murder which led to the security puppet being put in place. My guess being the Sammy abduction event. This same alley is also seen in Easter eggs where we see the animatronics themselves within the alley. Notably, we see that there is a poster within one which appears to have representations of the Afton family. A man with a marionette of himself, which appears to be William, and his son Michael, who is, as we see in the Sister Location TV series, that they are identical. There is also a clown representing Baby and a bear on a leash, which we may infer is the crying child. During the Afton Easter egg, we also see that there are posters for a Spook Fest, as well as a One Night at an Opera poster. These will go on to be seen throughout the franchise in future as well. So throughout the Fire Endings monologue, we discover that Henry knows that Elizabeth is the spirit inhabiting Baby and is the daughter of Afton, and he refers to the player character as his brave volunteer who somehow found the job not intended for them, and reveals an escape plan was planned. But for this particular individual, he believes they are right where they want to be and will burn along with the animatronics. He also reveals that he himself is nearby, as it can actually be inferred based on the evidence we have. Henry is in Lefty. Henry, embodying Lefty, has captured his daughter, the puppet, using the puppet's security bracelet codes and his lure encapsulate transport system that we see on the blueprints. And so we also note that Lefty is a black bear, a shadowy bear. Lefty is also Shadow Freddy, so therefore Henry is also Shadow Freddy. Throughout the franchise, every occurrence of Shadow Freddy has been Henry interfering and attempting to take down Afton. Following Henry's death in 1985, he would appear as Shadow Freddy in 1987 in FNAF 2. In the 1990s, he would appear to lead the children to Afton in order to have them dismantled so they could take revenge on him in FNAF 3. He would then also be present in the FNAF 3 facility, briefly appearing as Shadow Freddy next to the office door, and then here in FNAF 6 he is the main character who is setting up the events that we see unfold within this game. I would also posit that it is entirely possible throughout the series that Henry is also being a computer embodiment of himself following his death, inhabiting the spare endos that we also see throughout the facilities. So the spare endos that we see in FNAF 1 and 2, as well as Yendo in Sister Location, as well as what is possibly the shadowy bear which leads Charlie's friends to find her in the Twisted Ones when she is taken to the mysterious bunker under Henry's house. Side note, it's entirely possible that based on the fact that the guard who found the advertisement wanted to stay, apparently, it may in fact be that this is Michael Afton we play as in this game as well. This ending does also raise some questions as to the complicity of Henry in the incidents involving Afton, as he does note in the fire ending that he, although unwittingly, helped to create the monster that is Afton, and he is repulsed by the fact that despite the killings, he has also found a new way to desecrate these spirits, which is played over the top of the Scoop blueprints, and so I have to wonder whether the Scoop has some ulterior use that we are not yet aware of. Henry does note that Afton lured them all back, i.e. the spirits, and set a trap for them. What this is not entirely clear. It may be FNAF 3's bad ending, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It does, however, seem that there is an instant in which Afton tricked the spirits into doing his bidding. Henry also notes that Afton inflicted a wound first on himself, which he allowed to bleed out onto so many others. This referencing the fact that Afton killed his child first, and Henry apparently here admits that he allowed others to also be taken following this. This may be reflected in the one piece of lore we have not yet covered so far, the Candy Cadet stories. The story of the woman with the 5 keys to rescue 5 children in some way may be referencing the puppet or the young woman Charlie. She has basically doomed the 5 children by giving gifts, giving life. Whereas the man referenced, or the boy referenced in the other 2 stories, involves 5 kids who he adopts so that they will all be safe from one killer, but the one killer inevitably ends up killing them all under his roof. And the 5 kittens, and he feeds one to a snake, but the snake greedily eats all of them. So Henry adopted 5 children basically under his roof, i.e. he allowed 5 children into Freddy's and they were killed by Afton the killer. The same goes for the snake story. He apparently allowed Afton one child, perhaps in the hopes that that would satiate his bloodlust, and in the end he ended up killing 5 of them. Now Henry's complicity in this may in fact be confirmed based on one small detail we get in the novels so far. When John remembers Michael Brooks being taken, it was not Springtrap who took him, it was Golden Freddy, who was played by Henry. So perhaps Henry was intending to save these children, but inevitably it ended up that he didn't. This would explain his rambling, as it is noted during his interrogation from the police about the missing children incident. He was in some way guilty. That is why he appeared guilty. He did in some way have something to do with it. And so this is Henry's attempt at redemption, to release all the spirits that he has allowed to be trapped by his actions. And so we also have to place the fact that he mentions that he wants this place to be forgotten, and it would appear that it is possible that this site, which we see in the end propaganda reel thing, that this place is named Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. And so it is entirely possible, based on the derelict remote location and the fact that this is wanted to be hidden by Henry, this may actually in fact be the Fredbear's family diner location, as that would fit with all the lore associated with this game. It was the first location, it was the place Henry lost his daughter, so realistically he saw this as the best place to end all. So that is it for Freddy's Pizzeria Simulator. In the next installment, we will be looking at the security logbook and the lore associated with it in relation to the rest of the franchise, which will be followed up by the third novel in the trilogy of the series, The Fourth Closet.